Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Melanin Margin, the weekly chat show where conversations about race are never off the table. We're your hosts, Quaviondre Williams.
And Daquon Wilson.
So let's get into this week's conversation. What's hot on the table this week?
Recently, the Grammy nominated singer Kehlani broke their silence about their interview with the Morning Hustle and how disrespected they felt. The 27-year-old artist, who has said in the past that they prefer using they them pronouns but also use she her, shared on their Instagram story, quote, I was gonna remain silent. Every other interview has been super bubbly, warm, informative, and open. From start to finish, this interview was cringy, a lot of mockery, and invasive as fuck. End quotes. The interview kicked off rocky with one of the hosts introducing Kehlani stating, quotes, they are here and they is she, and she is with us. She goes by the name Kehlani, end quotes. The interview continued with the host asking questions such as if they ever scissored with SZA, if Kehlani knew who her girlfriend was, and other things that made them feel embarrassed and uncomfortable. The other host clapped back at the singer, saying that Kehlani doesn't respect urban media and was rude from the start, end quotes. If there's an artist that has a problem with answering questions, do not come to the Morning Hustle show, or please get media training. If there's a question you don't want to answer, as a grown up, say, I don't want to answer that, and you move on. If someone addresses you by the wrong thing, you correct them and you move on. Good luck with your album. I heard it only sold 21,000 copies. Maybe that's why you're doing all of this, end quote. So, Andre, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on this situation and how it was handled?
Daquan, I hope you have your library card because
I
uh,
do.
the library is absolutely open. It's time to read because waiting is what's
Fundamental.
fundamental. First and foremost, I wanted to address the supposed clapback this host gave. I'm really getting tired of people trying to fault their rude and disrespectful behavior on those who are subjected to it. Because let's really break it down. We've seen time and again where the artist or their manager has given the talk show host a list of questions to steer clear of, and they still ask. We've seen time and time again where celebrities have tried to steer clear of answering a question that has made them uncomfortable, and the hosts keep pressing onward until they get the answer they want or a negative reaction that they can use to say that the artist was what being difficult. A prime example of this is the Avengers interviews with Scarlett Johansson and Jeremy Renner. In the
Mhm.
clip, the interviewer asked Scarlett what she wears underneath her costume for the movie. And when she made it clear that she was uncomfortable with the question and didn't want to answer, the interviewer didn't just let it go and move on. No, he kept going until he pressured her into answering. And Scarlett Johansson has had plenty of media training. And don't even get me started on how defensive cishet people get when you correct them on your pronouns. To many of them, gender affirming language is a joke, which was clearly displayed in how they introduced Kehlani. Had Kehlani said anything in the interview that would have labeled her as being difficult or said that they were just joking and people need to lighten up and so on and so forth. I mean, there would there wouldn't have been any moving on. There wouldn't have been any correction and probably would have escalated the already uncomfortable interview into a whole new level of uncomfort. And lastly, that little job, little jab, little jeer at Kalani's album sales just shows how unprofessional these interviewers, quote unquote, really are. Instead of admitting that they were disrespectful and apologizing for how uncomfortable they made someone they interviewed, they immediately went on the defensive and started to attack. Kehlani merely stated how uncomfortable they were at being interviewed by these hosts, and their response was to throw juvenile schoolyard jabs. It's giving very much the same energy of, oh, yeah, well, that's why you ugly anyway. And baby, you were the one who asked Kehlani to be on your show, not the other way around. So let's get it together before you want to read. And I'm 100% certain that we don't have to explain why their line of questioning was clearly out of pocket, but I'll explain it anyway. And it's very simple. Don't ask people about their sex lives. It's none of your fucking business who anyone is or isn't fucking. But Daquon, I want to pass the question back to you. What are your thoughts on the situation and how it was handled?
Child, I'm gonna just say this: the class was not there. I didn't see any class. I didn't see any glamour. I didn't see any poise. I didn't see anybody being cordial. Because this is not how you respond to somebody saying how uncomfortable they were during your like that's the clapback was just a whole different thing. But even like I watched part of the interview, I saw it, just so I know like what was going on. And literally when one of the hosts was being like they is she and it was just
already
so cringy. Like it's like you can say somebody has they them uses they them pronouns and sometimes uses she her pronouns without doing all of that mockery. Like it didn't call for all of that. And so it's just also like as a non-binary person, like that's not how you go about using somebody's pronouns. You can simply state it plainly, like, oh, this is Kehlani. They use she, they pronouns. They use they, she pronouns. And you move on with the interview. Or in the interview, you mix up your pronoun uses. You might start with they, you might move to she, her, and then move back to they, however they feel comfortable. But when you start an interview like that, I literally saw Kehlani close up so much because I felt that discomfort. It was super cringy. And for you to just like go afterwards and be like, get some media training. How about you get some media training? How about you take a class on how to interview somebody? Because you don't like, obviously you didn't do your research about Kehlani because you were like, oh, this person, this artist, do you know? And it's like, that's literally who they're dating. Like doing just a bit of Googling would have told you that. And so it just overall felt like something that was so just disrespectful. Like the disrespect was real. And like, I don't think artists should need to like just stand for it. They should be able to be like, hey, I felt disrespected for in this situation. And as an adult, if that wasn't your intentions, you'd be like, all right, I hear you. I hear that you feel disrespected. I don't want to disrespect you any further. And you treat them like an adult. You don't go for a schoolyard clapback. And it's like, you act like an adult. You're calling other people childish and everything like that when you're the one being childish. It's like, it's not giving the clapback that you thought it would be, but
you thought
it also brings up this question of just like, do you think that female and queer artists are disrespected more in interviews or get more personal and invasive questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think specifically, cishet people believe they are entitled to ask any question they want because in their eyes, anyone who isn't a straight white man is being given a privilege to occupy a space with them. They believe that marginalized communities don't have the right to privacy like they do because society has made straight white men the standard and everyone else is just vying to get to their level. It's patriarchy, it's white supremacy, it's fetishization, and so many other isms wrapped into one. It's like they are saying, I'm doing you a favor by allowing you to be here. So you have to do whatever I tell you, or I'll push you right back down the totem pole of privilege. You know what I'm saying? And I think we've seen this so many times, especially with trans people, when they get on these interviews and they're talking about, their new project or something like that. And people are going like, oh yeah, so do you have a penis or a vagina? Or what's between your legs? Like, I don't know if you remember this.
Like?
I don't know if you remember this, Daquon. Do you remember that interview? I think it was Carmen Carrera on the Katie Couric, I think it was, where
Yeah.
as soon as Cameron Carrera sat down, she was like, the host was like, "Oh, so your private parts are different," and then Cameron was like, "What? Hold on, hello, how am I doing? Am I here?
Right.
Is this?"
No, hi, how you doing? Welcome, our guest. None of
And
that.
it's like it's only towards people like that. And then the scissoring question, like nothing, like what the fuck is wrong with y'all? Like I mean, like Daquon, I don't even like. It's like, why would you? What made you think that that was something to be asked about in an interview about her upcoming album and her life? Like what the fuck? And I think it's really disrespectful. I think it's really disgusting. And it all comes from that entitlement. They're like, baby, you're not supposed to be here. So we're allowing you. So, girl, we're going to do what the fuck we want to do. And we're going to ask what the fuck we want to ask. But, Daquan, what about you? What do you think?
I completely agree. I think that, female and queer people get so invasive questions from interviewers because I think the biggest thing is people believe since you are quote unquote the other, that
Yeah.
it's your job to explain yourself and your humanity to others.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't understand pronouns. You have to explain that to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't understand your sexuality. You have to explain that to me. And it's like, we live in 2022. There is Google, there is Bing, there is Yahoo, there are so many different search engines. Just choose
A
whichever one
book?
you like better. You like, there's a book, there's
Several.
anthologies, atlases, there's all of these encyclopedias. And so I think that absolutely, especially trans people get such invasive questions. And it's like, even in the situation about, scissoring, and it's like, even if somebody, I haven't heard a lot of Kehlani's music. I don't know her, discography, but even if she talks about, doing something with somebody in a song, that's it. Like they
That's it.
said everything that they need to say on that song, and you leave it at that. You don't have to, dig any more to figure it out. Like, no, they shared what they wanted to share, and that you leave it at that. And it's like maybe it's not even real. People write songs and just say things because they want to write it in a song. But it's never appropriate to ask somebody something about in the bedroom because I don't think they would do the same thing with a cishet white male that
Of
they
course
do
not.
with all these other people. So it's really giving invasion. It's really giving being too personal. And I need it to stop. It's inappropriate.
And what really gets me too is this whole need to understand. It's kind of
Right.
like I don't have to explain. Like there are so many people. For me, I don't like that question of like when people ask me all the time, "Well, why do you go by she/her pronouns that you're non-binary? Why not they
Because I
them?" And
do.
big oh, Daquan, say it one more time. I thought they heard you.
Because I do.
Like it, there's so I block immediately. Like that question, I block immediately because I'm like, I don't dignify you with an explanation. If some people choose to explain and stuff like that, that's fine. But it's like it pisses me off because I've even had people on dating apps ask me too, like, well, why do you go by she/her pronouns? Block. I'm done. I don't have to because I shouldn't have to explain this to you, especially as
Mhm.
someone in the LGBTQIA community. I can't explain to you why I'm gay. I can't explain to you why I like men. I can't explain to you why I'm non-binary or why I go by she/her pronouns. It's just who I am. It's just
Right.
what feels natural to me. So I don't owe you shit. Like I don't owe you an explanation. I shouldn't have to be like, oh well, because be she, her, da 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 da, whatever. I don't have to do that shit. I don't have to. And I think people need to get the fuck out of that headspace. There are people who go by neo pronouns, all kind of pronouns that I like that are or just go by their names and stuff like that. And it's like if you tell me something and you say this is how I want to identify, this is who I am, end of discussion.
Period. Like again, as another non-binary person, I get the question so many times, and it's like I'm not obligated to explain it to you. There are times where I do have that conversation with people,
Yeah.
and most of the times it's because they come at me from a perspective where they understand boundaries. Like instead of
Yes.
just asking it flat out, they'll be like, "Hey, can I ask you a question about
Yes.
pronouns?" And if I say no, they'll be like, "All right, I'm not going to ask." But then I say yes, and then it's like, "All right, that you established that you understand my boundaries. You demonstrated that you don't want to come off as disrespectful. It's a genuine curiosity and not just you trying to like read somebody or anything like that. And then it's like, okay, then I'll explain. Like, this person was asking, oh, what does it mean when somebody uses he, they? Like, is it only he, they? Like, is it, I've seen he, him, his before. I've seen they, them, theirs before, but I never seen he, they before. And then I explained like what that means and what somebody who identifies that way or uses those pronouns, what they could mean, because, everybody treats pronouns differently. And so it's all about setting that intention up front, being like, can I ask you a question about pronouns? And then being respectful enough to where if somebody says no, you accept that and you move on.
I think that there's a lot of the thing that gets me oftentimes, that what frustrates me, and the reason why I block so quickly sometimes, is because of the fact that a lot of the time it's accusatory. The tone. The tone is not, hey, I'm just wondering and curious, if you don't mind me asking, what helped you know that your pronouns were this? You know what I'm saying? What helped you realize you were non-binary? These are questions that come from a place of love or come from a place of respect. Like, what made you discover this about yourself? Versus, why do you go by these pronouns? It doesn't make sense. You're supposed to be non-binary. Non-binary is they, them. And that's why I hear a lot, even surprisingly, from people in the LGBTQI community too, who'll be like, why do you do that? It doesn't make any sense. Oh, it doesn't? Blocked. It ain't gonna make sense to you, baby. It ain't got to.
Listen,
blocked. You can never see me again. You ain't gotta worry about it.
I'm gonna keep it a $1.98 because you can keep those 2 cents. Block.